This is Dee. I'm at my work table today. I'm going through some pages that I've made for my art journals. I was going to do kind of like a little flip through of what I've got. I've been stockpiling. So, let's see what we got here. I've been doing a lot of this piecing and collaging and adding little poetry, and I'm really loving the way these are turning out. This one I've got some digital paper that I made. I've been using a lot of this beautiful handmade Japanese paper. And one thing I've been doing with that to makes it easier to stitch is I've been using SPF 101 interface on the paper, fusible, before I cut it and work with it with sewing it, and it's worked out really great. So that's a nice little tip. Get some little pockets. Sewed this one like this to get a little tuck spot. This is digital art that I made, and then I worked on it after I printed it. I like to try to do things to it to make it look less digital. So I did some spray, watercolor painting. And this is a discharged crackle fabric that I had pieced, and actually did piece this together a really long time ago, and then I found it in my stash, and I made this digital paper, and then stitched it on. I really love the color combination on that. And this is some more of this is tea-dyed tea bags, paper, and poetry from one of my favorite Japanese poems, poetry books. Architectural drawing, but here I've used that same technique with the handmade papers and the interfacing. It's working out. Get some discharged fabrics. And some more of the poetry with the discharge and hand-painted fabrics. This is linen. I actually kept the selvage on there. I really like the different contrast between the selvage and the woven fabric. And then using blanket stitch and decorative type stitches as a mark making. It's more of the discharge. And then this is an unusual jacquard fabric that I had from a trip when I was working as a textile designer. I picked up. This is hand painted, but this fabric is great because it's got like letters and mark making and alphabet. This is a hand painted mark making on linen, digital fabric scraps that I've cut up and stashed away. This is from little bits from a photograph of these old barns that I've been taking photographs of. And I actually have a digital pack with the old barns in my Etsy shop that you can get the PDF and download it. And I like to cut them up and do different things with them, but you can actually just use the full print too. More of the poetry that I really like, and tea-dyed fabrics. More of the discharge. I only have a little bit of this discharge fabric left, and I'm just like using every little morsel of it because it's like my favorite. Same here with the coffee dyed here, the Japanese paper with the interfacing. That works so well. So you still can get some translucency, but it's so much more easy. More easy, I don't think that's correct. It's so much easier to stitch it when you do that to it. Here we have some linen cotton blend with painting, stitching. And this is from one of my favorite books. This is canvas with ink painted and silk organza painted with ink and stitched. More of the organza overlay with the ink on canvas on that. This was oil painted and ink with a linen overlay and stitching. This is another little painting with some overlaid pieces, and this is a tape that I have that I paint. I'll have to do a little video, a little tutorial on this type of tape that I found that's really great. And then I overlaid this on top of a digital art piece that I made. Here's a beautiful cotton with coffee dye, Semic writing, discharge with stitching. And this is more of the Japanese paper with that linen that has the white paint that I love that. I'm gonna have to do more of that. And this little guy, I had made a little video on Instagram where I did this overlay and a little drawing, more digital, and some of the more of that cotton blend, the little poem that I made. And this, I experimenting with some gold leaf with mark making and potato dextrin on paper to create the crackle paper. And then if I get a crackle paper that I really like, I'll photograph it and bring it into Photoshop and use it to make more so I can get more out of one piece. This is coffee dyed. Some more of the crackle potato dextrin technique. And that's used also on this fabric. And this is velvet that has the potato dextrin crackle. And yeah, you can use the potato dextrin on fabric, and you can also use it on paper. There's more of that. This is a cotton velvet, and more of the potato dextrin, and this is hand painted cloth. Silk organza tea dyed with stitching, more potato dextrin, crackle. I'm really loving the look of these. I'm going to have to make more of these. And more of the poetry that I really like. So those have all been stitched up. And they're in my stack. And these are some digital pieces that I've done that I want to collage. Adding trees, drawing with calligraphy pen in Photoshop. And these are going to be great for layering and collaging on top of. I made these tree brushes that I can use in Photoshop. I printed out several of this so I can play around with that one. Lots of texture. Marble technique, real watercolory looking. And this overlaid text. And this has florals that I used with a brush, Photoshop, and then splatter. All these splatters were done in Photoshop. More mark making. More of that marble. Ooh, I love that. Love, love, love. And then these are a little bit more graphic with the flowers and the brushes. You can do so much in Photoshop, and then once you print it out, this is like mark making brushes that I made. you can still do more to it after it's printed out. Like here, I've sprayed water and it gets the ink to run and you get all these really wonderful effects. I really like to take stuff that's digital and do things to it to try to make it look less digital. And the flower brushes. More of these really cool textures with mark making. These are going to be really fun to collage on and maybe stitch on and do some, take them even further. But I like to get a whole nice stack of these going. So when I sit down to do the collage work, very textural. I have a nice stash to, oh, this was something that I stitched, and then I took a shot of it, and I thought, oh, I'll blow that up and photograph it and run it through Photoshop. It's kind of fun. Some more. The possibilities in Photoshop are pretty endless. And then these little guys I've been working on, they're not done yet. I've got to get this poetry on there, but I've rust dyed and then patchworked 9-patch, and then I'm using these little, I'm adding these little 3-dimensional rust elements that I want to hand stitch on to the pages. Well, this one's kind of gotten all out of whack, but this is where I was at with it. I got to get this stuff glued down. But I think these are fun to add a more dimensional element to the pieces. This one is a little swirl, so gotta get those done. Just a little quick overview of some of the things I got on the table that are going to be going into some journals, and I'll be posting some flip throughs of some journals very soon. Thanks for watching.